Good morning. Just trying to get this adjusted. I think that's more or less right. I moved this, I think. So it's not quite where it was, but that's okay. All right. So today is the 5th of July. I hope you had a nice holiday weekend. I was trying to take off days that my husband had taken off work, thinking that, we could be available to do something or whatever. But as it turned out, we didn't really do that much. And then I just figured we were back to normal on Monday. But last night, he said, "Oh yeah, I'm off tomorrow too." And I'm like, just forget it. Okay. Now I'm back to class. I can't, I got to get back to things here. So here I am. He's off work and I'm going to do my class. So it's fine. Good morning, Sue. So I had somebody send me a question, an email about classes at the county. I don't know anything about that, I got to tell you. I think Sue had mentioned in an earlier class that they are doing some of the group exercise classes and things. I don't know if they're doing them outside or if they're inside. I'm not really sure. But if you go to the website for the county, for Garfield Park, or really probably any of the county rec websites will tell you what they're up to. I don't know. They were really good about staying in touch through last year. But since, I guess, about last summer, they pretty much stopped communicating about what their plans are. So I really don't know. I really don't know. So I guess we'll just see what happens. But I will, I'll let you guys know if I hear anything from them about what's going on. My plans, I don't really know what my plans are. I will also let you know about that. It really depends what happens. I have been exploring some other job opportunities, not necessarily yoga related. So I'm not sure where it's all gonna shake out in the end. But I do like doing these online classes, and I probably will continue to do these even if I'm not doing necessarily in-person classes, or not as much as I was. For sure, not as much as I was. But we're gonna stay flexible about that and see what happens. So I wanted to talk a little bit. Right? I hope you had a good holiday weekend and enjoyed some beautiful weather. Right? Really nice. I can't remember a holiday cookout that was as pleasant in terms of weather. Um, but let's talk a minute about this idea of independence. Right? So independence, right? We all know about our independence and how we separated from our, colonized ruler, right? Back in the day, um, because we didn't feel we were being treated fairly. We felt we were being taken advantage of. Representation, or I can't remember the phrase now, but like not having a voice, not having a say in our own destiny, right? And that's important. People like that. If we think about independence in terms of child's experience, right? So when children are, um, living at home and they are children in a household, they don't really have a say in things, right? That's kind of the hallmark of being a child, is having things decided for you, and you pretty much just go along with what's happening. Um, you may get a choice, right? But you don't really have ultimately a say. And that's the difference, right, between children and adults. Adults get to choose their own destiny, their own path. So independence is a very wonderful thing, right? And we all um, love it, right? And if you think about how things are now compared to how they were maybe 50 or 100 years ago, the idea of independence has really spread way beyond simple self rule to um, a real change in how we view our society. So there is a freedom to do things, to be things, to choose your life in a way that certainly 50 years ago was unheard of. Our The rules and regulations that we had in place in our society have pretty much crumbled, um, for good and maybe not so good at times. Um, we used to have a cultural and religious framework in this country that kind of enforced a certain level of morality, um, at least on the surface. It's hard to know what was really happening in practice, but there was a lot of lip service given to doing things a certain way. Um, that a lot of that has changed, right? People are not certainly so concerned with what their parents think, what their church thinks. That's not universally true. I mean, there certainly are still a lot of people who are in those systems, and for good or for bad, right? That's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It just is a thing, right? Um, but if you are a person who is kind of out there, right? And another thing that's really changed, in say the past 50 years is how mobile people are. People will move from one place in the country to the other side, starting a whole new thing, starting a whole new place where they're not known, where they can be really and do whatever it is they want to do. And that, I think, has been one of the real hallmarks of our country, is that it is a place where you can start over, where you can be something new. Um, and this is a good thing, but it can also be abused. It can be taken advantage of. I was just thinking the other day about this beautiful, gigantic house in Newcastle, um, that I read something about, that it supposedly has tunnels underneath that go out to the river, and there's some belief that this very rich person that lived there at one point then sort of moved to the other side of the country and was, committed crimes here, and then moved to California, committed crimes there. So, right, that's a freedom that isn't really available anymore. But the freedom to discard your bad past and start up a new bad past. So, um, independence it can be a dangerous thing, right? It can be misused. Um, if you've ever had uh, kids leave home, or you were a kid yourself left home, I mean, I'm sure you made some terrible decisions at times. You did some things that were very harmful to yourself and your well-being, just because you could, right? uh, this is an important point to remember. Independence, just because you can, doesn't mean you should. Right? What independence really requires of us is a great deal of self discipline, of self knowledge, and of um, an internal structure that we are going to enforce. So, this is where yoga helps us. This is where the yamas and the niyamas come into play. Right? If that seems like a lot, right? Fall back on the yamas and the yamas. Right? If you're not sure what to do, if you're at a crossroad, look back at those. They are a structure that will not steer you wrong. They will allow your independence to be um, a virtuous one, right? A one that is of help to one and another. Independence is not selfishness. It is not self-centered behavior. Independence is allowing you to make a choice, but you still need to make a good choice. I'm not sure what independence with no consequences is. That's not how we want to live, right? Um, that is a misinterpretation. And I think we certainly do have groups in this country, and um, there's a kind of a thought process that does slide towards that, where um, I've got mine, to hell with you. Um, that is the goal. The goal is to help yourself and deny others, um, which is not at all um, a way that is sustainable or virtuous for us to live. So, if we want to be happy, if we want to live peacefully, coexist with others, if we want to live in harmony with our world and with the people and the things in it, we have to remember, right? Um, we need a philosophical and an ethical framework for us to live within. And there are many to choose from, right? Yoga is just one. Yoga is a very versatile one, right? It's very flexible and very adaptable to almost any situation I can think of. I can't really think of a situation where the yamas wouldn't help you. Um, but you may have other ones, right? I mean, certainly a lot of the religious, orders have their own philosophy, which, you know, amazingly is very much the same as a lot of the yoga rules, right? Um, the golden rule, right? Treat others as you would treat yourself, is not far from ahimsa. Um, there are parallels throughout all of the cultures and all of the philosophical traditions, because these things make sense, because these are the ways in which we um, can live peacefully and productively with other people in the world. Um, there's there's nothing particularly new about these things. They're ancient. Um, and rather than trying to avoid them, think we are above them, or that the rules don't apply to us, let us rather um, use them as a guide. Right? Yoga, the word yoga means yoke, like the yoke on oxen. So it is a constraint, right? We don't have, when we put a yoke on oxen or a team of cattle, it allows us to not have them run wild, right? If without that yoke, those animals might run wild in the field and destroy everything, right? Knock down, knock down fences, eat from the neighbor's yard, just make a total disaster of everything. So the yoke constrains them, but it doesn't just constrain them. It allows them to work together to accomplish a goal. Um, so by assuming the yoke of yoga, you are constraining your behavior. You are not allowed, as a yogi, if you are truly practicing yoga and following the path, you are not allowed to do anything you want. You aren't. And this is a sticking point for some people, right? They want it all, right? They want to be able to do whatever they want and still say they are following a yoga path. But I'm sorry, you cannot do that, right? You cannot be a selfish person. You cannot be um, a grasping person. You cannot hoard things. You cannot um, take from others. You cannot be steal or appropriate things from other people, taking their responsibilities, taking their glory. Um, all of the things that we caution against with the yamas, you can't you can't do those and say you are a yogi. It's just not, it's not the truth. Um, Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to do the right thing, right? You may make mistakes, because we all will. You may do things in error or in anger or in frustration or um, confusion, right? But you try to do the right thing, and you make amends when you don't. Um, that is the way. That is the yoga path. If you consistently do things that are selfish, if you um, if you cannot get through the basic, right, kindness, if you cannot be kind, if you cannot treat others with kindness, if you are consistently unable to follow these things, and you spend a lot of time trying to justify why you can't, right? Because that's my favorite part, right? Is when people want to explain to me why what they're doing, even though on the surface it might not look yogic, it really is, right? Because they're serving themselves. You know, I'm doing self-care. I'm serving myself. Okay, no, you're not. You are serving yourself, right? You're serving your ego. You're serving your belief that your personal well-being is more important than other things in the world. That's ego. That's not self, big S, self, right? Self is everyone. Self is all of us, right? You can't hurt another person and say that's in service of yourself. It's not. You're hurting yourself, you're hurting them, you're hurting yourself. That is self, right? The self that people talk about when they talk about self-care and self whatever, that is their ego. That is their little self. Their you know, their self-interest self. Let's put it that way. And you want to be careful about that self-interest self. It doesn't mean that you aren't going to take care of your body, that you aren't going to do things that are nice for yourself. But look, how does that affect everyone else? You know, how can you do that in the context of the larger ahimsa, right? Um, you are no more important than anyone else. I don't know how else to put it that way. You are no more, no less, right? That's a big kind of radical idea. You are no more important than anyone else, but neither are you any less. So, as a yogi, we have to make decisions. Who needs it now? Who needs it more? Right? It's like this idea of Black Lives Matter, right? This concept that seems so hard for some people to understand is so yogic in nature, right? Who is hurting? Who needs help right now, right? Right now, Black lives have been under siege. I mean, it's been happening forever, but now we finally noticed it, right? Black Lives Matter. Let's talk about that. Let's make that something that's important. It doesn't mean that everyone else doesn't also matter. But right now, who needs help? Whose house is on fire, right? You have a row of houses in a town. They're all equally beautiful, equally worthy. You know, one isn't greater than another, but one's on fire. Which one are you going to take care of? That one. So we are all equally of value. But some people are going to need more help than others at any given time. Think about a relationship, think about a marriage, right? Marriages, everyone says, oh, marriage has got to be 50-50, 50-50. Well, if you've ever been in a marriage for a long time, you know that's not true. I might say any relationship, it doesn't even have to be a marriage. It would be beautiful and very nice if everything was 50-50, but it's not, right? At any given time, things are different, right? Sometimes you're busy, you don't have any time for it. So your partner, the other person in that relationship has to take up all the slack, and vice versa. Ideally, there is a dance here, coordination where we each of us give what we can at any given time. And there's a balance, hopefully, right? Some people are more busy than other people, and it goes back and forth. If consistently only one person is giving, the other person just keeps taking, and they never seem to have time or seem to give or do anything um, beyond the very basics. That's a relationship that's out of balance. That's probably a relationship that needs to end. Um, it's not a healthy give and take. So, no one is more important than anyone else, but neither are they any less important. We all have needs. And at any given time, it's a triage, right? If you think about triage, this idea that you got to see. So when a doctor or whatever is triaging a situation, you got to see what's the most important. Who is going to die if they aren't taken care of first? First, second, third, right? Who needs it most? Who is doing the most poorly? It's a beautiful way to think of the world, to think of everyone, right? We got to solve the big problems first, the problems where people are really suffering first. Then we move on. Um, this is a hard concept for some people, um, because people have the idea that there is a finite source, right? That there is a finite amount of love and attention and care. So if someone else is getting it, I'm not getting it. They're taking from me. What a horrible way to view the world. It is not at all yogic, and it's not at all how the world works. It is again a fearful way to look at the world. Um, a scarcity, an idea of scarcity, right? We have abundance in this country, in this world. There is abundance. There is so much waste, so much that people throw out. I just read an article about the amount of stuff that Amazon destroys every week. Um, just returns and things, perfectly good things, but they just destroy it because they don't have any place for it. It's just too much, and it means nothing to them, right? The value, it has no value. But think of what the value could be for others. And when I read things like that, I think about that, how that happens on large scale all over the world, that people with too much discard and destroy the things that could be of use to others. We could have a world of plenty for everyone if we just distributed it better. But we aren't. We aren't. We are very hung up on ownership and responsibility and who is who is owed what, right? Um, we can't get past that to the idea that we are all equally deserving. We are just because we're here and we are living, we are deserving. Um, we should be able to live, all of us, um, and really live, not live hand to mouth, not um, be fearful of where our next meal is coming from, or what happens if they get sick, or um, any one of a number of situations that we find ourselves in, simply because we don't care for others. We care only for ourselves. Um, so let us use our freedom wisely. Let us allow our freedom to encourage others' freedom, right? There can be no freedom without opportunity. So if you are a person who is working at a very low wage job, um, just barely making ends meet, not able to buy food that is nutritious for you, not able to go to the doctor when you're sick, not able to take care of your children, um, you don't have any independence, right? You are bound and tied to a system. You can't leave that job. You can't find better opportunities. You have no time. You have no room to breathe. You can't even bring your head up for a moment to see your situation because you are locked in. And all over the world, people are like that all day long, every day. Um, we can do better. We can do better because they are us and we are them. Um, if we do better, we all do better, right? These struggles, these inequities, these kind of gross imbalances where we have people with so little counterpointed with people who have so much they're throwing at the garbage. This holds us back. This breaks down our society. It promotes false ideas like, oh, well, these rich people must deserve it, right? They deserve it, right? These people, oh, well, they deserve to be poor. How? We are all one. How? Um, Too many things in this world are up to chance, up to um, where you are, right? Where you were born, this time, this place. All of these things are not of our doing. We didn't choose to be here at this particular time in this particular place. Um, there is the idea of karma, and I hesitate to get too deeply into that because I don't really buy that. There are people that believe, right, that oh well, you're poor, you must have done something bad in your last life to make you a poor person who's suffering. I don't buy that. I don't think it works like that. I don't think things are, again, like karma isn't a vending machine. You don't put in $1 and get a better life. I mean, that's not how it works. Um, we are all of us trying to learn lessons, and our physical our physical environment does teach us some lessons, but each and every one of us have challenges regardless of where we are born and what we are doing. In fact, for some people, being in a very luxurious circumstance is actually more challenging than the other, right? Um, if you look at uh, if you look at statistics, people that give the most to charity and support charities and churches and all of these, like, people that are giving, are mainly the poorer people, right? People with less income give more of their income to, by percentage, not just like, not maybe not in necessarily a dollar amount, but more of their income goes to support charity than rich people. Why? Why would that be? Can you even think why would that be? So the idea is that poor people understand what it is to be without. They understand how hard it is to struggle, and they want to help others. They understand also the necessity of working together, of supporting one another. They know, right? They've had a time when they didn't have what they needed and someone helped them. So they understand the value of that. When you get to the point where you are, super well off, it's hard to see that. You start seeing everyone else as taking your money, right? You're fine, you're good, you've forgotten what it is like to struggle. You think everyone should just be doing as good as you can, right? Well, why don't they just get a better job? Why don't they just, hey, look at me, I'm great. Why don't they just do what I did, right? I mean, there is a lack of empathy. There is a lack of understanding that maybe they've always had. Maybe they were born in circumstances where they could never understand why people. Why don't they just have their, don't they just have their dad help them out? Why don't they just, like me, like whatever? It's a misunderstanding of how the rest of the world lives. So people born into that, people who are very wealthy, who've gone to great schools and all this, they've never had to deal with the harder side of life. They are actually at a disadvantage when it comes to understanding what is going on in the world. Um, they have their own struggles mentally, right, to understand and to grasp what everyone else in the rest of the world knows already. They may be born like with the inherent kind of selfish bias, right? So in our heads, our internal, spiritual, mental struggle is just as real if you're rich or poor. You still have things you need to learn. You still have a lot of steps to go. Um, it's just that your physical thing is better. But what we need is for all of us to have a healthy basis, right? Because when you are really, really struggling, do you have any time to think about your mental well-being, about your physical, or I'm sorry, your spiritual and your, those things? No, you don't. You're just trying to survive. And we we can't have that, right? We need everyone to be able to survive, to be healthy, to be contributing, right? To be able to be healthy. It's as if your body is is sick. Let's say you have a broken leg, right? Your leg is broken. The rest of your body's doing pretty good, but your leg's broken. What are you going to do? Drag that leg around with you? I mean, how's that going to work out? Not good. Why not fix the leg? Why not do what you can to get the entire body healthy? Um, Now, I mean, broken leg, that's one thing, but what if it's not quite broken? What if it's just sprained, or you did something wrong? I mean, people do, right? People have long-term, injuries, things like that they live with, and they don't get help for. They just kind of drag themselves along. And if you've ever had that happen to you or known someone, you see how damaging that is. You see how it brings everything down. That's exactly what happens with a society, with a culture, with a world. Um, that that injury, that damage just gets worse over time. And not just worse, but you compensate for that injury with other parts of your body. You're suffering, you are damaging other parts to compensate for this one thing that really, if you could fix this, um, everything else would be better. So, independence, it's great, but remember, you are no more important than anyone else, also no less important. So, um, act accordingly, follow your rules, um, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Yeah. All right. This one went long. Let's do a little movement, okay? Just extend the legs, point and flex the feet. And then rotate through the ankles. One way and the other. Let's bend the knee, sit up tall, and then lower the knee out. We've got the foot up close to the thigh. Take a deep breath and fold. Come on back up. Switch it around. Lowering down, take a deep breath and fold. Both legs out in front. Breath in, fold forward on the exhale. I'm going to bring the hands behind you. Just leaning back a little bit, not too far. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, gaze up. Back up. Left hand on right knee, right arm behind. Sit tall. Deep breath and twist. Back to center. Switch it around. Bring the soles of the feet together. Sit tall. Deep breath. Fold forward. Back up. Lift the knees and we'll catch a hold of the toes or the tops of the feet. Lean back a little. Find your balance. And then maybe some extension. Back down. Let's lower down onto your back. Take a few breaths. Bring the right knee into the chest. Breathe. Lowering, right knee out to the side. Back up. Draw it across the body so you're kind of rolling up on that left hip. And then we're back. Switching legs. Left leg hugs in. Lower knee out to the side. And then back. Drawing that knee across. Rolling up on the right hip. And then back. Extend both legs. Let's do 5-pointed star here. Let's bring the arms up over your head. And we've got the feet together. We're going to do that banana asana, where we kind of walk the hands over to the right and also the feet. So we're still laying flat on the mat. We just have the arms and the legs over a little bit to the right. If you want, you can lift that left leg and kind of cross your legs at the ankles. That just gives you a little more stretch. You should feel kind of a stretch on that left side of the body. Again, this doesn't have to be a big extreme pose, just a little, right? Just a gentle stretch. And then back, moving the opposite way to the left. So I've always called my classes gentle yoga because I want you to treat yourself gently. Doesn't necessarily mean easy yoga, right? Gentle is not the same as easy. There is nothing easy about what we do and what we talk about in these classes. But gentle means how you approach it. Right? Come on back to center. How do you approach it? Right? Are you forcing yourself into these poses? Let's bring one hand on either elbow if you can, right? And then bring soles of the feet together, knees apart. Are you forcing yourself into these shapes, or are they coming as naturally as you can? Are you gently encouraging yourself, right? That's what yoga is all about. The same thing with the things that you're doing in terms of yamas and niyamas, your behaviors, your choices. Are you forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do right now? If so, maybe you need to back off. Yoga arises ideally, naturally. As we start changing some of our behaviors and our ways of thinking, our choices become easier. Our likes and dislikes become clearer. We naturally want to make choices that are better for us. We aren't saying, oh my God, I'm going to be a terrible yogi, so, I'm going to make this choice that I don't like. No. You will grow into your path if you give yourself a chance, if you listen to what your body's saying, right? Listen to that internal, the big S self, not the little ego living in your brain. Bring the knees together, hug them into your chest. Right? We want to listen to that quiet voice, that little voice inside of us, right? That meditation voice. And then bring the hands under the knees. We're just going to rotate the knees around. Going one way and then the other. And then extend the legs and the arms, and we'll move into Shavasana. Breathe, relax. Feeling steady and at peace. So, what will you do with your independent life, with your independence, your ability to choose? Will you make good choices or will you make harmful choices? How we live is how our life reflects it, and vice versa. It doesn't mean that living a good life guarantees you um, a successful life, right? Depending what metric you follow. Living a good life, a virtuous life, is its own reward, right? You don't get uh, money for that. You don't get a prize. Um, because again, a virtuous life, you're not looking for praise. You're not looking for, that's, then you're selfish again, right? You've slipped, you're doing good things, but for the wrong reasons. You're doing good things expecting someone to thank you or pat you on the back. And this is what happens with a lot of people, right? They start out with good intentions, but when they don't get the praise that they think they deserve, they get put off. People aren't grateful. People don't appreciate me. I'm not going to help anymore. Well, okay, you've answered your own question there. Why were you doing it in the first place? You were doing it for yourself, for your praise, for your ego, right? Um, Yeah, and that doesn't last, right? You see what happens with that. It doesn't last. Your commitment will fall apart pretty quick. But if you're doing it because you know in your heart that this is the right thing to do, that the action, the deed is the reward, right? Um, you are benefiting, and I know you've heard people say this, right? That like it's the thought that counts. It's the act of giving, right? It's doing the good deed that is really that's really the reward. And maybe you haven't really understood that, or you don't really believe that. But that is yoga, right? That is the yoga belief. That is the yoga action. That it is the action of doing this. It is um, your action that is the reward. That is um, you are following the path. You are serving the world, the universe. You're serving God. You're serving everyone, each and every one of us, with your actions. And that's all the thanks that you should need, right? You are serving yourself by helping others. Um, Not in just like a silly way, in an essential and very basic, true way. Um, You are making your world a better place, one act at a time. And I can't stress to you how important this is. That is your reward. And if you can remember that, everything you do will become a blessing, a gift. Um, and you will never be discouraged. You will never um, depend on that false praise and flattery from others, right? Because you're already getting what you need from within. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a fabulous thing. So when you're ready, you might come up to a seat, or maybe you just want to keep lying down. That's okay too. We'll bring hands together for a deep breath in and out. Thank you for taking time this morning for yoga, for sharing it with me, and for just enjoying a little time in the morning. I hope that you have a really good Monday. Namaste. Okay, I'm going to do meditation. If you feel like you've sat enough today, then you can lay down. Or you could skip meditation, that's up to you, but I'm doing it. So I'm sitting up, relaxed shoulders, um, steady breath. Keep that peaceful state of mind if possible. Breathing in, breathing out, staying in this um, place, right? Not allowing your thoughts to wander. Bring them back when they do. I'm not going to say if they do, I'm going to say when they do. Bring them back. Okay, here we are back. Um, so enjoy your Monday. Um, this actually was my grandmother's birthday. I remember that it was always fun because we would have some big celebration on the 4th, which was really also a celebration of her birthday on the 5th. So happy birthday, Grandma. All right, I'll be back tomorrow. And yeah, I think I won't be taking any more. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to say that, but I'm not planning any more time off until sometime in September. So we'll see. We'll get through the rest of the summer. Hopefully, hoping for some good weather still to come. This is crazy, right? Today's a little warmer, but still not too bad for July. All right. Enjoy your day, and I'll be back tomorrow.